Then we have Cloud Explorer, which helps you in connecting with the cloud. That's why it is called Cloud Explorer. So you connect to your tenant via Cloud Explorer, where you give the tenant name, and then you give the username, password, and test connection, and apply and close. That's how you make a connection with the tenant. For deploying the integration, you need to select, and then this is the button to deploy. Right. And from the tenant, you can also download the CLAR file, right? To check whether it's a studio integration. You check the template name. The template name will be cloud template, right? And it has a CLAR file. What does CLAR stands for? Cloud Archive, right? So .CLAR, where what Workday does is it's a combination of all the files which are there in this project on the left hand side, right? Source code, your assembly diagram, and all those stuff, whatever XSLTs and all those you have. It is combined, a kind of a zipped file, but it's not zipped. But just to give an example, it's a kind of an archive file with an extension .CLAR. Okay, and then you can import and export the CLAR file directly in here. So you have to just do a right click. You can do an import from CLAR file. Just select your CLAR file which you have downloaded from the tenant. And if you want to export, then also you can do just right click and export and select a location. And it will just same way you download it, you can do it from here as well. Okay, and then in the tenant, one in the Cloud Explorer, if you click on this arrow to the tenant which you are, it will show you all the studio integrations that are there, right? Now to import it from in your Project Explorer, you can directly do right click, import source, and it will bring that integration. Right now it is an error which says already exists. That's fine. I can check another one. Say any random. I'm choosing this one. Import source and finish. So now it will come up in my Project Explorer. And then I can do any update and then redeploy it to the tenant. Okay, so that's this one. And then we saw that for any studio integration, the first component has to be Workday in, right? And you can rename that as whatever you want. So any component, do a right click, show property view. And here you see in the blue part here, right? Down below in the blue, Workday -in is written, right? So that's the name of the component, but you can give anything, just click on it and change any random name you can give. Only constraint is it should not have any spaces. The name has to be with an underscore or whatever. Right, then we had this put integration message component, which helps in changing the status of the integration. So if you want your integration to complete with warning, you can put the severity as warning, and then your message, you can change it to error, critical, and to know what all, every component has a help thing here. You click on help, it will open up the complete description that what is there in this. Okay, then there is another stuff which I will say always to use is swim lane. Right now, if you see here that suppose we have this component and then you have this component, right? These components are kind of misaligned, right? Some is going up, down, and all that stuff. In order to align them, this component helps, which is called a swim lane, right? So you have to just drag and drop things into swim lane, and it will automatically align it and make it look good. That's it. And then you can completely move a swim lane so that it will not be a mess. And in a studio integration, whenever you create, there has to be this global error handler. Just drag and drop that, next, and finish, right? And for this one, again, since it's like this, you drag it, put a swim lane, and put both of them into this. And then what I normally do, you can have a swim lane within a swim lane. Like this one is there. I can drag this one into the swim lane. And this one also in this swim lane. Now, if you see, this is by default horizontal, right? Everything is going horizontal. If you click on that swim lane and go to the properties here, you see horizontal is by default. You can make it vertical. Then it becomes like this. So if this one I make it vertical, it will become like this. So you can change. Plus, then you can do this color stuff here, fill color. Okay,
Sure.
and it'll make it good and readable. So what's the benefit of global error handler is any integration, studio integration should have this global error handler. You don't have to connect it to anything. It is just should be there. What it does is, if say there is any error for which you have not done any error handling, in that case, the global error handler will catch it. Okay. So again, a basic thing here to remember. How many are there? Why it is not getting read? How many are there? So in this one, there is this start here, right? Every start here, which is Workday in the services and in the advanced tab, you see the integration name, right? Ideally, there is only one start here, right? Because then whatever name you give here, when you deploy this, it creates that integration in the tenant. But say in the same integration, if you have 1, 2, 3, and this one is 4, you have 4 start here. Each one, you see there is a name. This is int test POC1. You see here int POC0. You see here it is POC. So it will create 4 integration system. So meaning the more the number of how many start here you have, your integration will have those many integrations will be created once you deploy it.
Okay.
Okay. And then there are different components, right? I will just give a brief overview of what are the most common ones, right? One is this Workday out rest, right? Rest, R for rest, R for report. So Workday out rest is used for calling Workday reports. So say in your studio, you want to call a report and get the data, right? And the report will give you XML data. That's the use of Workday out rest. Then is Workday out SOAP. S for SOAP, S for service, which is a web service. So Workday out SOAP helps in calling Workday web services, get, put, submit, import, and all those, right? Which has a request and a response. That's the component which is used for that, Workday out SOAP. For calling any third-party web service, HTTP out is the component which is used. Okay, so that's the stuff. And one basic thing of Studio is Studio works on XML. Meaning, whenever you get an input file or anything input, the first thing is to convert it into XML. If it is XML, then that's fine, nothing to worry. But if it's not, say if it is a CSV and all that stuff, if it's a JSON, right? First step is to convert it into XML and then do that. So whenever you see a Studio, you will see, right? So these three things are clear, right? Then comes another important component, which is called async mediation, right? So it's an empty box, which is a placeholder for different components. Some components like these ones, right? Start here, put integration message, Workday out SOAP. These are standalone. You can drag and drop it anywhere. But there are few which needs a placeholder, like this async mediation, right? Those components are these ones. XML to JSON, CSV to. So if you see this, it will come up here. But if you drag and drop it here, it will not, because it needs an async mediation. So CSV to XML is a component which converts CSV into XML. So here the input will be CSV, and the output will be XML. You have the reverse as well. You have XML to CSV. You have Java to XML. You have XML to JSON. You have JSON to XML. So these are all, there is code written at the backend by Workday, so you don't have to do anything. You have to just use it and configure the properties. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the use of this stuff. And in Workday Studio, there are two types of coding that is used. Both are open source. One is XSLT, and the second one is MWell expressions. So if I have to show you that, just type in on Google MWell expressions and it will open up a page. Right? So here are these trend stuff, simple property expression, right? So there are these syntax. So this is just one-liner codes, creating variable and all those stuff. All here, whatever functions you want, everything will be open source. Right? So now what I'll do is I will open an integration and we will see that basic stuff. And that will cover most of the required components. And will be good. Let me see what's there in this step. Nothing. Let's see what's there. Yeah. Okay. So here is the start here. First component of this integration. Then you have get event documents. Right. So get event document again in the palette. This one, if you write here get event documents, so this is also a direct component. You put it here. What it does is it fetches the document, the retrieval stuff, right? Okay. So in the business process, you have the retrieval step.
Yeah.
Getting file from SFTP.
Yes.
The next step will be fire integration. So this component will help in retrieving that file. So say on SFTP there is a CSV file. Okay, so this get event documents will get that file, read the content of that, right? Now say if there is one file, that's fine. You don't need this route component, right? This route component has a doc iterator stuff. The doc iterator is a component which is used for iterating through multiple files. So if on SFTP there are multiple files, we use this doc iterator in the router. It helps in it process it one by one, right? After that, now we have a CSV file. Then we do an eval where we are fetching some attributes from the integration. Then CSV to XML will convert it into XML. This is a log component which kind of populates the log file. Ideally, in production, there should not be any log component because it is just for your validation, right? It is printing some stuff in the server log file. So ideally not recommended, but for your build and testing and all that stuff, you can still use it. Okay, call subroutine. So this is a component called local out. It is just to break the function of the flow. Otherwise, it will be a long horizontal line, right? So what it does is you put a local out and then you put a local in here, and you connect them by giving the name. So if you see declaration in workspace, the flow will come to this part. And how we do it is in local out, you have this endpoint, right? Endpoint is you just choose this one. It will show you all the integrations that you have in your stuff. You choose your integration and select the right local in. So if in your integration, say this is the local in, right? So if you have 5 local ins, when you come here and click here, you will be able to see all the local ins here. So you can select where it should be connected. And to see the connection, you do a right click and say declaration. So it comes here. After that, so CSV to XML, now you have XML. After that, you have this, there is a write step where you are just putting the content. So whatever you put will become your message. And then XSLT is the code where you click on this green thing, it opens up the XML, the XSLT code where you can write the XSLT. right? And you know, XSLT always works on XML. So the input to this one should be XML. And here is the Workday outsource. So you are calling a web service of the application name is, this is the functional area recruiting, and the version is v38.0, which is there on the, when you open the web services page on Google, it shows you the latest version and the functional area, and you do that, and then you have this global error handler kind of stuff. So that's how, to just to give you an overview, you know, you drag and drop components, connect them, do the, you know, configure the properties and do stuff. So it works like this, and then starts from Workday in, which is the start here component, and then goes till the end. And also there has to be this global error handler stuff. Okay, so that's a kind of a basic flow of a Workday Studio integration. When we say a complex Studio integration, there is nothing as such complex, but it is that it will have a bigger flow and big requirement. Like if I can show you one which I created, see this one. This is having so many components, right? So it depends again on your functionality and all those stuff, what it is doing and all those. You first kind of break your stuff and do here, right? So let me just uh, give you a basic how we kind of define it. Okay, say you have got a requirement that you have to first read an input file and then load it as an applicant in Workday. Okay, put applicant is the web service, right? So first is retrieve the file, right?
Yeah.
And then if there are multiple files, then you know you have to use doc iterator. After that, check if file is present, right? Say if there is no file at SFTP, yep, you can make it a fail. And then check if file has data. It should not be empty. Then only you process, right? After that, say if there are 10 records, then you split the records. There is a component called splitter. What it does is it will split the, so your first thing is convert it into XML, CSV to XML. After that, you will use a splitter, right? And it will give you one row at a time, and then you start processing it, right? Check if the applicant already exists. So these are the different steps that you first define. My thing of doing any studio integration is you first define and write down all the steps, and then you start putting it into the studio using components and do stuff. Otherwise it'll be difficult in the initial part, especially call web service and all that stuff, validate, generate a log file kind of stuff. And then to show you, right, this is design. If you click on source, this is Java. So it has, each component has its own code. So you don't mess around here, but it is just, you click on design and then it's set. This is automatically populated as you drag and drop. It automatically adds the code here. Okay, so that's the overview. That's all you want to know. You should know as part of this basic integration stuff. The other thing is, when do we use Studio? We use Studio when we have to import, or so 90% of the time, all inbound integrations are Studio. Only star mark is if there is no connector available, and that's obvious, right? Like say, for example, there was one connector which we saw, import credit card transactions from MasterCard, Visa, and all that, right? So that is importing transactions into Workday, but there was a straight connector, so we have gone for that. Suppose if there is no this connector, then it has to be a studio. No second thought. Inbound integrations are 90% studio. And when will it be in case of outbound? Say if you have to generate multiple output files and get data from multiple custom reports, then it will be Workday Studio. Why? Because if you see your connector, you have seen our outbound connector like core connector worker only gives you data regarding worker.
Correct.
And EIB, if you see EIB, you can use only one report or one web service. But here the requirement is you need to call a report which will get you worker data. You have to call another report which will give you some other related data, and then you have to combine this into 3 files and all those stuff. That kind of complexity is done via Studio.
So, studio.
Plus, if there is complex transformation, right, and validations, and you have to call multiple web services.
Oops.
In that case, Workday Studio. Okay, so this is this. Now, this is all what we have in the integration course, right? That's all what you have to do. Now, when you want to kind of try stuff, so these are the questions. All what we have done in our course, right? From an integration point of view, from an interview point of view, wherever you go or you want to know what I have to kind of go through and all that, right?
Yep.
These are the questions which you must prepare before going there, right? General, what are the different tenant core connectors, different questions, sequence generator, eligibility criteria, and all that. Then you have for EIB and DT, right? What's the difference? What is that? Different types of data sources that you can use for an outbound EIB.
Yeah.
And then you have for Workday security,
What is an
ISU, ISSG, and in all that. And in HCM basic, what is the supervisory organ and all that. Then Workday reports, the first topic that we did, right?
What is it?
All that. And then there is another one, important things to prepare before any interview. There you have to be ready with those kind of answers to this question. What was your last Workday project? What were your day-to-day activities? Do you manage a team? What's your support process? Name some integrations which you built from scratch. Kind of. And then for Workday Studio, what we covered, just the higher overview. When do you use Studio? And what are the, how do you call external web service? How do you call report, web service, the component names and all that, right? And then in the next tab, real-time scenarios, where there are few things, daily activities. These are the stuff which we normally kind of a normal support people do. So you can read it and then just reiterate it in your interview. And then some scenarios, why this happens and all those stuff. The top, there you have one more bonus thing which I have given here. One is the web service link. Other one is a list or Workday resume for your reference. So this is a resume of a Workday HCM guy, right? A sample resume. So you can update your resume by taking the wordings from here, right? Because the normal issues you will face is how can I write this core connector, how can I write this part and all that stuff. So this will give you a basic how to update. Okay, so in Workday world, right, you have two things. Partners, partner companies, and customer companies, right?
Mhm.
Now, when I say partner and all, these are the companies. Sorry, I missed the R here. These are the companies which help these companies to implement Workday.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, example if I have to give, so partner companies. Right? So these are the companies which provides Workday as a service to other companies.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then there are customer companies, which are say Walmart, right? And then you name it, it's there. AstraZeneca uses Workday. Then you have State Street. Then you have what else? You have Google, you have Facebook, you have Boeing, you have
Mhm.
Airbus,
Yeah. Airbnb,
mostly, yeah, Airbnb, you have Netflix,
Netflix.
you have this Lenovo. So Workday also does this part, right? Implementing Workday. Workday has its own professional services,
Correct.
which does. Right?
Mhm.
Now, these companies will charge money, right? And Workday, these are partner companies, so these are the only ones who can implement it. So
Okay.
these companies, they have a contract with these companies that okay, you do it for us, 1 year project, 2 year project, and all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
If you're
Sorry.
part of these companies,
Mhm.
right, you
Mhm.
have a certification which is called the partner certification, right? And
Mhm.
with that certification, you have an account, implementer account, right? So
Mhm.
if say your name is Vibhas, right? So
Yeah.
your credentials will be Vibhas -INT,
Mm.
something like that, right?
Okay.
This one is a full admin access of the tenant, and you can do all the stuff you want,
Mhm.
right? So implementer is a security group again, and only if you're certified in Workday, a partner certified, then only you get this,
Got it.
right? On the other hand, if you're part of customer company, then obviously you will have Workday, right? So you will be an employee in your Workday tenant, right? But you
Mhm.
will have, if say you're part of support team or integrations team, you will have all the admin security groups like integration administrator and all that. So you will also be able to do everything
Mhm.
except few things which is one thing is called iLoad. iLoad is nothing but populating data and using it. This is used in the implementation phase to load bulk data and all those stuff. That's the only thing. Otherwise, it's both the same. Here you have pro certification. You don't have partner certification, you have pro certification.
Yeah.
To work in these companies, you don't need certifications. You just need knowledge,
Mhm.
right? Like to give you an example, I was part of this one. I was an implementer. I
Oh,
did this for 5 years. Then I
great.
moved to this company. It's been
Okay.
1.5 years.
Mhm.
I'm part of customer. So now all my certifications are converted to pro.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's the only difference. Here you are part of your organization. You do things your own. But here you are part of different projects. So first year you're part of one project, then it went live. Then suppose say you are in KPMG, right? You will
Mhm.
first get certified. You will have your implementer account. Now say your first project is Walmart. That's
Mhm.
for 1 year. You implemented, then over, go live, done. Then say you got another project, Facebook. You're doing that. Then you got another one. But now if you're part of customer, that's it. It is all support and implementation enhancement. Say this Walmart is in 50, 60 countries. So you are
Mhm.
doing country by country. So it will be half support, half implementation. And you can do it on your own.
Got it.
Each company, what they think is support, they want to do it in house because that's cheap. But if they give their support also to these companies, they charge a lot,
Yeah.
right? So what they do is they hire people and then make their kind of in-house competency. But it is very difficult to hire people from here, right? Because here, if you are working here, you have your implementer, right? Once you move there, your certification will go away and you will have this kind of certificate, right? So it's very difficult. Obviously, these people will come here once you pay them well, else they will not.
Correct. They will not.
That's the difference between a customer. So now these companies also, they hire non-certified people and then they get them certified. Okay, so this is the website. You can go in your free time, workday.com, and it gives you everything. So if you go here, customer experience overview, and see, it's Workday website, official company website, not the tenant. So here you have list of all the companies that are there. Yeah, so it's a huge scope in the market for Workday,
Yeah.
right? And if you search for jobs and all that, you will find a lot. In US especially, the list will never end.